love is doing nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regarding others as more important than yourself. It's self-emptying, serving others. And doing it for God's glory, not doing it for some gain that you're going to get on the other side.
And welcome to Inspiring Courageous Faith. We have a guest I have been looking forward to, grilling, questioning, surprising, and enjoying.
Let's just say
enjoying. My friend Bob Lepine joins me. He has been my co-host on Family Life Today, or was for 27 years.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to have you on Inspiring.
Oh, this is fun.
Courageous Faith.
It's like riding a bicycle. Could we still do this?
We can still. I don't know if we can or not, but we're going to try. We're going to try. I know that we can trust you to carry the day. Bob is the founding pastor of Redeemer Community Church here in Little Rock. He did serve with Family Life for how many years?
28 years.
28 years. And I left. I think it was after 27. So you carried on.
And we should let folks know this year is the 50th anniversary of the founding of Family Life. You were there at the beginning back in 1976, right?
Right. Before the Earth's crust hardened.
and you and Barbara began that adventure thinking this was just going to be like a short term. We'll try this for a couple of years. God had a different plan for your life, didn't he?
Very much so.
Yeah.
And Family Life Today was another ministry that was birthed out of Family Life.
Yep.
And when it came time to start it, since I knew nothing of radio, I contacted Ambassador Advertising on the West Coast, and they said, you got to talk to Bob Lepine, which we did, and that began a great relationship, which we enjoy even to this day.
My name was third on that list that they gave you, right?
I know. I wasn't going to mention
the
that.
other two said no. You came.
I was the fifth round draft choice for leading Family Life, so I understand how that goes.
We should also tell folks, you and I are going to be together in February.
That's right.
On the Love Like You Mean It marriage cruise that Family Life is doing, which is, I think it's their 15th cruise. Or their 20th, it's an anniversary cruise for them. I
don't know. I think it's closer to 20.
Well, okay, special cruise for them and the 50th year of Family Life.
Right.
So it's kind of a big season for us to reminisce about how God has been at work through the ministry of Family Life for many years. And it was a privilege for both of us to be part of that. You much more than me.
We take over the whole ship.
Yeah.
And I made a mistake one time that said the whole boat. And that's a no-no with a cruise. You don't want a boat. You want a ship,
yes.
A big ship. And we'll have somewhere around 4,000 to 5,000 people, and no one else on board other than those attending the Love Like You Mean It cruise. Come join us, and we'll have a good time together. And if you saw us here on the YouTube, come up and say hi, and we'd love to talk with you.
Yep.
Well, Bob has also written a book called Love Like You Mean It.
Yes.
The same name as the Love Like You Mean It cruise. And I want to get to that in just a moment, Bob. But the first question I have for you is, do you think it takes courage to love another person for a lifetime? Because I can hear my friend Dave Bohai, who gives me guidance on these podcasts that we're putting on, saying, now, what does this have to do with courage? And I have one word: everything.
Mary Ann and I just celebrated 46 years of marriage, and I was reflecting back on the 15 minutes before I walked out of that little back room in the chapel out to stand in front and wait for my bride to come down the aisle. And I had this thought in that moment, never forgot this. I thought, how do you know that this is the one? How do you say yes? And there was a song on the radio at that time.
Well, now let's just share with our viewers. You had been a little slow in pulling the trigger on that. You dated her for how long?
For almost 4 years that we had dated before I popped the question. And it was slow on her timetable. And I was reticent because I thought the right order is I have to be started in a career. I have to know in my gut that I can support a family. Mary Ann was already working as a nurse. She could have supported us just fine, but I just couldn't. I didn't have the courage to say, by faith, I'm going to do this.
Right.
And then on the day of the wedding, I thought, how do you know this is the one? There was this song on the radio that said, it's sad to belong to someone else when the right one comes along.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, what if 3 weeks from now, the right one comes along and I just said yes to this one. And I go, I should have waited. And I remember in that moment, God, by his Spirit, just saying, it's by faith that you do this. This is a step of faith you're taking. I have led you this far. I will continue to lead you, but we walk by faith. And so it was a step of courage to walk out and say yes and say, I remember thinking, what if she changes? Well, guess what's happened over 46 years? She's changed and I've changed, and that's going to happen. But the courage is that you understand, you trust that God is leading you. And that's where you come and you say, okay, I'm going to take that step of faith and not worry about this.
Well, my signature question is, what is the most courageous thing you've ever done?
I think I've heard that question once
in
or
your
twice.
life. You've heard me ask it of others. And I'm sure I asked it of you, and I'm sure you answered it. But I'm curious here at the start, what would you say is the most courageous thing? And just again, to help our viewers, courage is not the absence of fear. In fact, if there's no fear, there can be no courage.
That's right.
But courage is doing your duty, doing what's right in the face of fear. Mm-hmm. And so it's fascinating to ask this question at a dinner party around a table of people, because you really get a chance to get to know them, because you're sitting next to some heroes who have made some courageous choices. So yeah. I've stalled a little bit for you, Bob. What is that most courageous act?
You had to know you didn't need to stall, because I knew Dennis Rainey was going to be interviewing me, and I knew what question to anticipate in the midst of that. I will say that when I wrote a book years ago called The Christian Husband, one of the things in putting that book together was recognizing that really the question is, do you fear God more than you fear man or circumstances?
Right.
And so courage is really saying, I'm going to fear him more than I fear whatever I'm walking into or whatever man might do to me. So it's not, like you said, it's not the absence of fear. It's actually fearing something greater than the circumstances you're facing.
Right.
But I remember this was 17, 18 years ago when we were sitting with a group of people who were frustrated here in Little Rock about church choices, where to go, what to do. And I remember in that moment thinking, I wonder if God's calling us to start something. And out of that initial meeting and beginning to think about that and pray about that and say, I think this is what God's calling us to do. I don't think I understood the scope of all that I was saying yes to in being kind of a catalyst in that whole event.
Right.
But I was working full-time at FamilyLife. We had kids still at home. It's not like I had an abundance of spare time. And so to step into that and say, I will do what I can do and trust the Lord with what I don't have the capacity to do, and to see God take that and honor that and bless that. I really think that stepping out in faith was probably, you know why I don't like your question, because I have to catalog every action I've ever taken and catalog whether this one was
you're
more
very
courageous.
logical and has to be precise.
But that was certainly one of those faith steps that we took 17 years ago, and we look back on it with rejoicing at what God's done there.
Well, there are a lot of single people who watch this YouTube podcast. There's married folks, parents. There's people who are empty nesters who watch this. I think what we're going to talk about today is timeless. The subject of love. Mm-hmm. It goes absolutely the distance of not only marriage, but in life for people in all walks of life. And if there's something I think a single person needs to pay attention to, I want you to comment on this, because I know you've got a number of singles that go to your church.
Yeah.
While they're single, they need to go to school on what it means to possess love and to exhibit love and to demonstrate love.
Yeah, this became really clear to me back in 2012 when I decided I was going to take an extended period of time, I think it was 8 or 9 weeks, and work my way slowly through 1 Corinthians 13 and really dive deep into that text and pause and say, when it says love is patient, what exactly are we talking about? Then love is kind. What does that mean? So each week we unpacked one idea, one concept, one term. And in starting to work on that and think about it, I started with the beginning of that chapter where it talks about speaking with the tongues of men and angels and having not love and you're a noisy gong clanging cymbal. And it became really clear that the cultural definition of love and the biblical definition of love are two different things.
They're in a collision course.
I learned what love is growing up by listening to pop songs on the radio and today by watching Hallmark movies on TV. And you think it's all about your emotions and it's all about some feeling that you get, the quiver in the liver, whatever it is. And I had to learn that when God talks about love, when he talks about his love for us and our love for one another, it's a different caliber. It's in a different category. In fact, interestingly, in researching this book, J.I. Packer says that the term agape, the biblical term, it's one of 4 terms for love.
Right.
It's that self-sacrificing, self-emptying love that is other-focused. He says that Greek word was virtually non-existent before Christianity came into being. The Greeks didn't have a category for it. They didn't honor it. They didn't look at self-sacrifice as being a noble virtue. And so when Christianity comes along and says, we have something here that's really unique, really special, it's agape love, it was a new concept in the minds of most people. And that's where I think I have to continually keep recalibrating my thinking about what love is, and recognizing that love is doing nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regarding others as more important than yourself. It's self-emptying, serving others. And doing it for God's glory, not doing it for some gain that you're going to get on the other side.
So I want to rewind the tape all the way back to year 1 of your marriage. Mm-hmm. If we could interview Bob Lepine in his rookie season, how do you think you would have described how you started your relationship with Mary Ann over 46 years ago?
I don't think this was a conscious thought, but looking back on it, I think while we were dating, I thought, I really like the way being with her makes me feel. Uh-huh. I like the way she affirms me. I like the way that she fits with me. I just like being with her because I like how it feels for me. And so let's get married. And that way I can have that feeling more often, more regularly, just have it for the rest of my life. And it'll just grow more and more. That's my thinking about love. Very self-centered, very much focused on am I pleased? Does this marriage make me happy? When I sit down with couples today,
right,
and they're in marital discord, that's often where they're focused is, I'm not happy in this marriage. And I said, well, let's pull back and just ask the question, is that what the purpose of marriage is? Is it supposed to be about your happiness? You remember Gary Thomas's subtitle to his book, Sacred Marriage, which is, what if marriage is more about your holiness than your happiness? And so we come back and we go, that first chapter was a chapter where I was focused on, if I'm happy, our marriage is doing well and Mary Ann's loving me well, and I'm motivated then to love her back. But if I'm not happy,
right,
something's wrong with her and she needs to fix that so I can start being happy again. That's how I viewed it.
Yeah.
And then there came, I don't know when it was, but there came an awakening point, probably sometime when I was reading Ephesians 5, and it said, no, husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church, gave himself up for her. And I thought, I guess rather than being focused on my happiness, I guess I should be focused on her happiness. So I tried to flip it and go, okay, I'm here to serve you. What can I do?
Right.
How can I make you happy?
Right.
But Dennis, after a long period of that, I realized that's not it either. Because ultimately, the question is not, does this marriage make me happy or does this marriage make her happy? The question is, does this marriage please God? Does it make him happy?
Right.
And there may be circumstances that will please him that make neither of us happy, but that's what we say yes to. And we have to recalibrate our thinking to go, that's what we're here for him to be pleased with what we're doing, whether it's painful for us, challenging for us, whether we get sideways, we don't like it. There are times we look at each other and go, I'm not real happy right now. Me neither. But you know what? I think this is what the Lord's calling us to. Let's keep going.
Yeah. I in asking the question of you, I couldn't help but think about it for myself. And I thought, I'm not sure what I would have said, but it would have been very self-focused, I'm sure. And yet that is the genius of God. Now, think about that. He can't learn. He knows everything. But God, I think, helps us grow up as human beings by entering into relationships. We were designed by God to be in relationship, first with him, then with others.
Right.
And the most intimate of all relationships, humanly speaking, is the marriage relationship. And a friend of mine challenged me. He says, marriage and family are redemptive.
Yeah, that's right.
They save you from yourself.
Yep.
And you point out in your book, and this was unique. I'd not thought about this before, but you pointed out that how when Christianity came on the scene in the first century, there was no word
right.
that they were fond of or had known of,
right.
like agape.
Yeah.
And so the Bible, God's Word, ushered in a new definition of what love is.
It not only introduced a whole new concept for what we were created for, but it also showed that this is true of the character of God. Michael Card, I mentioned this in the book, the singer-songwriter Michael Card points out that the most regularly cited attribute of God in the Old Testament is his loving kindness. The thing that you read most about God is that he is a God full of loving kindness. That's the Hebrew word hesed. It's a great word. And Michael Card said, this was a surprise to people. It was not a surprise that God was all-powerful or that God was holy.
Right.
But the idea that God would be a God full of loving kindness toward his creation, people didn't think about gods that way. And this was a revelation, and it changed the way people understood what it means to have a relationship with God. Nobody talked in the Greek and Roman world about having a relationship with Zeus or with Apollo or any of the Greek gods. Nobody they were just there to rule over you.
Right.
But the one true God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that God is not there just to rule over you. He does, in fact, do that. But he's there to have a relationship with you. He's there to express his loving kindness toward you. And so when we see that that's true about God's love for us, that informs our understanding of what our love for others should look like.
I compare my life and what happened in our first years of marriage to God welcomed me to the first grade of faith.
Yeah.
And in that first grade, you begin to learn what true love really is. And there's a lot of checks and minuses that occur in that first year of marriage where the rookie year can be extended well into a number of years and decades. And that's not something you want to do. You want to learn the lessons God has for you.
Right.
And make the corrections and adjustments. Not that you're going to do it perfectly here on the planet, but that it does point out that God does exist. He wants a relationship with us, and that's what heaven is going to be. And it's not going to be a boring place.
No, that's right. And we're still making adjustments in year 40. As we begin year 47, you're still making adjustments past 50 years. It's because we're still battling indwelling sin, which is there always crouching at the door, ready to consume us. And so we have to be alert to that and aware of that. And we have to every day seek to be filled with the Spirit, every day be surrendered to the Lord, present ourselves as a living sacrifice and say, okay, my wife left today to go visit her mom for a few days in Oklahoma. Her mom's in her mid-90s. And every time before she goes, I say to her, you're going to be with your mom for the next couple of days. You need to keep on being filled with the Spirit and manifesting the fruit of the Spirit throughout your time with your mom, because she loves her mom. That's why she goes to see her mom. But you know the mother-daughter relationship, and it can get a little edgy sometimes, and especially when your mom gets older and a little more particular about things. And so, but you just have to go into that recognizing I'm stepping into a spiritual battlefield, and I need to be armored up.
Yeah.
And I need to be ready to demonstrate the fruit of the Spirit.
As I was reading your book, I was thinking, now, Bob, you told about meeting Marianne, being smitten with her.
Yes.
But you didn't take us into those first years of your marriage with an illustration of how you learned how to really love, perhaps through your failures. Did you have a failure early on in your marriage that was not a wake-up call, but it was God reminding you, I'm up to something more than just two people meeting one another's needs?
So we had been married, what was it? We'd been married 5 years, and I was out of work. We were living in Oklahoma. I needed a new job. We were trying to decide, do I find a job here in Oklahoma that would be a career shift for me? I was working in local radio. So do I go to work for an ad agency, or there was a car dealership, and the guy said, come over here and sell cars. I can always use a guy like you selling cars. So I was toying with that, but I just continued to feel this tug that I needed to be in Christian radio. Well, if I was going to be in Christian radio, we were going to have to do that someplace else. We were going to have to move. My wife had grown up in Oklahoma. Her family was in Oklahoma. All of her friends were in Oklahoma. Marianne would have been happy to spend her entire life in Oklahoma. And I come and say, I think we're supposed to move. And she knew her Bible well enough to know what Ruth said to Naomi, whither thou goest, I will go. Whither thou lodgest, I will lodge. And so she said, if that's what we're supposed to do. So I got hired by a radio station in Phoenix, Arizona. And
a bit different than Oklahoma, huh?
Different than Oklahoma. We put our house on the market in Oklahoma. We had a 3-year-old. We had also just found out that Marianne was pregnant with number 2.
And tell them about the house you bought there, that house.
So you were asking about the mistakes. So yeah, that's where the mistake came. There were many along the way, but I went out to I went out to Arizona, and I'm out there looking for houses for us to move into, and we wanted the master on one side and the kids' bedrooms on the other side, and I needed a little studio room where I could record stuff at night.
Marianne had spelled out what she wanted very clearly.
No, not at all. No, I'm just out looking, and so I call her and say, I think I've found the place. And she said, well, tell me about it. And I told her about it, and she was like, well, if you think so. She hadn't seen it. I didn't fly her out to say, come look and see what you think. I'm buying a house, for heaven's sake.
That you're both going to live in.
Yes. And so I bought the house. We were still trying to sell the house in Oklahoma, but we were able to buy this other house. So now we are the proud owners of 2 homes, one in Oklahoma and one in Arizona. And then I bought the house, and so you can move out here. I'd been out there for almost a month at that point. And the company that I was working for was going to pay for the move. So I said, the movers are going to come and they'll help box everything up, and I'll see you out here. I didn't even go back home and ride out with her. I mean, I'm waiting in Phoenix for my wife to arrive, and she arrives pregnant in late July in Phoenix, Arizona, with a moving van to a place she doesn't know.
How soon did the marriage counseling begin?
It should have started sooner, but we didn't know any counselors in town. We were still new in town. She was, it was, I don't know if it was clinical depression or just a profound sadness.
So she didn't manifest her disappointment with anger towards you. She
just shut down. She just went into a hole. I'd come home from work and say, hey, honey, I'm home. Hi. It was just
chilly.
It was
chilly in Arizona.
It was frigid in August in Arizona. And Dennis, you've heard me say this. I remember a night in August when I was out in the backyard just kicking clods of dirt in our backyard and looking up at a beautiful starry sky and going, I'm not going to do this, but I understand why people get divorces.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
You entertained the thought.
I knew I couldn't.
Okay.
I knew the covenant I'd made, but I understood why someone would want to. I thought if this is the new normal, if this is how life is going to go, I don't know how you bear that. That there was her sadness and being shut down, and my inability to recognize. I'm thinking this shouldn't be this big a deal. You should, I'm not empathetic toward any of this.
Get over it, huh?
Yeah, right. And so I look back on that and go, yeah, that was a significant mistake on my part and something I had to learn from.
Would you say that someone had mentored you in terms of how to love your bride as you entered marriage? Or would you say you pretty much enrolled and went to school from day one?
Yeah, trade school. Yeah, an apprentice. I think all of us grow up with a model for good or for better or for worse. There's
Right.
a model of marriage.
Right.
Even somebody who grows up in a single parent home, that's their model of marriage. Marriage is disposable and one person may leave at any time. I grew up in a home where my mom and dad, it was not a warm, loving marriage. I think my mom grit her teeth a lot. My dad had been in World War II. He had been on the beach at Normandy on the second day of the invasion. I think he probably experienced what then they called battle fatigue, what today they'd call PTSD. I think he came home
Right.
with a lot of emotional wounding and scarring. I think he medicated that with alcohol. I think that's a big part of the reason for his drinking. And then he was eventually diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And so they had a lot of challenges in their marriage. And as I watched their marriage, I learned the things I didn't want to be true about my marriage.
Right.
So I had the list of don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. I don't think I had a good list of do this, do this, do this. And so I think I went into it thinking as long as I don't do this, this, and this, we'll be okay. Because that was just don't make the mistakes you've seen other people make. But yeah, then you get into marriage and you go, it's more than just don't do a few things. You've got to know how to do this proactively. And I don't think I had a template for that. So you look at popular culture, you look at the movies, or you look around at other people and you try to pick up clues from that, or you eventually turn to the scriptures and see what the Bible tells you about it.
Yeah, and that's where I want to go right now because, I think we need mentors in terms of knowing how to love another imperfect person. Mm-hmm. It's not natural to do that. It's not natural to deny yourself for another human being. And you need someone to call you up and out of yourself to truly step forward and meet the needs of another person who's broken, but who needs that love as well. And it's interesting, and in the Bible, there's a whole chapter, and this is what your book is about. And as I was preparing to interview you, I thought, this interview is really the tip of the iceberg of what Bob has done in his book, which is take a slice of one chapter out of the Bible, chapter 13 of 1 Corinthians, where the Apostle Paul unpacks what real love looks like from God's perspective, not from the world. And he calls us out of the conformity to the world. And that's what you're doing as you enter into this. And you start by quoting the beginning of the verse, which basically says, if you've got all tongues of men to speak and that of angels, if you've got knowledge of all mysteries, if you've got all faith to remove mountains, all that, and if you don't have love, what do you have?
You got nothing. Not just you have less. You have nothing. So it's not like on one side of the balance sheet, I got this and this. I need to add love to my portfolio to finish it out. No, your portfolio has zero value apart from love. That's what that that passage tells us. And that's a pretty startling statement. But here Paul, here's the thing I think we got to recognize about this chapter. The Apostle Paul is in the middle of a long rebuke of the self-centered Corinthians.
Which was not a pretty place to be.
No, they were given over to carnality. They were following the flesh. And he's just, in chapter 12, he's gone through this extended dialogue about spiritual gifts. And he's explaining to them, these guys, they are spiritually gifted. And they love their spiritual gifts. And they love to parade their gifts and show off their gifts. And he's trying to tell them, now, look, your gifts are here so you can serve one another, not so that you can get the head place at the table.
Right.
And he gets to chapter 13 and says, you can have all of these gifts. If you don't have love, your gifts are worthless. You can have all knowledge. And he even says, if you give away everything you have to the poor. So here's somebody who says, let me just show you exactly how self-sacrificing I am. I'm going to give away everything I have to the poor. And Paul says, if you're doing that for some motive other than love, other than a desire to glorify God through serving others, then it's worth nothing. It's your acts of altruism, even what seem like other-centered acts, can be done for your own glory. I tell a story in the book, and I'm not trying to judge anybody's motives here, but this was more than a decade ago.
I know the story you're about to refer.
Ted Turner, who is a media mogul, made a lot of money. He decided he was going to be a leader philanthropically. He wanted to challenge other rich people to be like him. And so he said, I'm going to give, I think it's $1 billion that he was going to give to United Nations for relief efforts around the world. And you can look at that and go, well, there's somebody giving away $1 billion. I mean, that's got to be somebody who cares more about others than he cares about himself. And I say, maybe. But it could also be that Ted Turner goes, you know how good I'm going to look when I give away $1 billion? You know what people are going to think of me? In fact, let's put on my website this picture of me giving away $1 billion so that everybody can see just what a special guy I am. Now, like I said, I don't know his motives. I'm just saying even acts that appear to be acts of generosity and giving, if they're not motivated by a desire for God to be glorified, right, and for you not to get any glory from it, then they're empty and they're worthless. And that's what's key to this whole idea of love. Love is not just serving others. Love is serving others so that God will be glorified by what you're doing, so that people look at your love for others and they see God behind that and they go, isn't God great? Rather than, aren't you a special guy?
Right. Well, folks who are watching and listening to us right now may not realize this, but I'm speaking with Dr. Love himself. And the folks who've been on the Love Like You Mean It cruise have seen him bust out into a coat and with his guitar play songs from the 50s, 60s, and 70s and entertain them.
Yes.
But he's more than Dr. Love. He's written this book, and in the book you outline from 1 Corinthians chapter 13, which begins, as I said, with this statement that Paul makes. If you don't have love, you've got nothing.
Right.
And then it ends with the verse that points out if you do have love, you've got everything.
Yeah, right.
And it says this, so now abide faith, hope, and love. These three. But the greatest of these is love. The greatest of faith and hope is love.
Yeah. And faith and hope are essential for our spiritual walk, but faith and hope without love is empty as well. And that's why Paul is saying this is the foundation of it all. Take this away, you've got nothing. Put this in place, you've got a foundation to build on.
Yeah. And I just want our viewers to know, inspiring courageous faith calls you to make courageous decisions. And I believe the Scripture somehow in our hearts, our souls, gives us the courage to obey God and to move up a notch, not even a notch, into another atmosphere totally, to love as God intended us to love. And what I'd like to do is get in the book, go back here where it talks about love in 1 Corinthians 13, and unpack what the Apostle Paul has for us in a list of 14 different characteristics of what love is all about. And really, Bob, have you back and mentor us on what love is and how you've written about this in your book,
I
Love
would
Like
love
You
to
Mean
do
It.
that. That'd be great.
Can you do it?
Yeah, let's do it.
It's a deal.
Okay.
And so I'd like you as a listener, if you want to pass this on to somebody, click it, pass it on. You probably know somebody who needs to recalibrate their relationships. Go ahead, pass this podcast on, Inspiring Courageous Faith with Bob Lepine, and they'll be better for it, and so will you. And come back again and watch part 2 and enjoy what the Apostle Paul had to say about what true love really does look like, and learn to love like you mean it.
Go to therainey's.org/podcast for more inspiring courageous faith content.